Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to County Council. It's April 8th, 2021, and it's a beautiful sunny day. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to get started calling this meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have all members of council here, with the exception of Councillor O'Leary. We have Councillor Thomas joining us on his behalf. And I do not see, as of yet, Councillors Mcqueen and Patterson. I will let you know when they arrive. Yes,
I believe that Councillor Patterson had a Board of Health executive meeting this morning, so she may still be wrapping that up. Councillor Ian Boddy is here, and he had mentioned to me that he might be a little late, but he's here.
And I do see Councillor Mcqueen has just joined us as well.
Excellent. Good morning, Councillor Mcqueen, or Deputy Warden Mcqueen. And welcome. Okay, I'm going to move on. I do not have my land acknowledgement in front of me, Madam Clerk. So sadly, I'm going to have to, can I come back to that? It wasn't on my list that is normally here. Were we planning on doing the land acknowledgement today?
Yes, we were. So I will send that to you, and perhaps you can do it just before Good News and Celebrations.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. If you would send that by email, I'll have it. It's usually on the bottom of my sheet, but it wasn't this time. Okay. Council, is there any declaration of interest from anyone? I'm flipping my screens here. I do not see any. If one does arise, I would ask you to raise it at the time that you feel appropriate. Item number 5 is adoption of minutes. We're going to start with County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated March 25th. And that is moved by Councillor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Keaveney. Council, is there any discussion or comments on those minutes? I do not see any. And if that's the case, then I will call the question. Anyone opposed? And seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. Item 5B is the Long-Term Care Redevelopment Task Force minutes, which are dated March 19th as well. That is moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Milne. Any discussion there? I do not see any hands, and so that said, I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed to approval of those minutes? And seeing none, I'm going to say that that is carried, and thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 6A, which is the Board of Health minutes dated March 5th, 2021. It is being moved by, well, Councillor Patterson is not here, so I maybe ask for somebody else, please. Councillor Clumpus, and seconded by, well, I've got Councillor O'Leary, but I need a different seconder. Councillor Burley. Sorry?
I said I was going to second it.
Sorry, I missed what was just said.
Councillor Mcqueen has seconded that.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Era is not here as yet, is that correct?
That is correct. He just sent us some slides that Rob is going to provide to council. I'm not sure who can speak to those slides.
It might be best, Madam Clerk, that we simply just move this a little later. I do know that the executive for the Board of Health was meeting this morning, and my assumption is they're probably still meeting. But, oh, I suppose that if we wait on this one, then next is adjournment, isn't it?
That's correct. I wonder if we go to Good News and Celebration, Mr. Morton.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you.
And then come back to the Board of Health with council's permission.
Brilliant. We'll go there. So council, we're on to item 7 now, Good News and Celebrations. Does anyone have anything to share? Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I almost wish that the members of the Board of Health were here. I had the opportunity to go to Hanover yesterday to get my first vaccination. And kudos to everyone and all the work they're putting into that, because it runs so smoothly. Well, it looks like a long lineup when you get there. You're not that long getting all the way through and getting the actual shots. So I just commend everyone for what they're doing there and how hard they're working at it. So thank you.
Yes, indeed. Lots of volunteers working in those vaccination clinics. Thank you for that. Next is Councillor Desai.
Thank you. I saw some good news yesterday regarding the pandemic. For the first time, Ontario crossed 100,000 vaccines in a day. So that's very positive news. I believe, again, this is yesterday's news, so it's not the updated numbers, but we were looking at about needing 120,000 vaccines administered per day in order to have most Ontario adults have their first dose of vaccine by June and possibly salvage the summer. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. There was also an announcement yesterday, and I can't remember whether it was a province or was the Toronto Health Unit, that anyone over the age of 18 wanting to be vaccinated will soon be able to book an appointment in the hotspots, so to speak. So that, again, that's another positive news. And last, I'll just end with Rotaract. I've mentioned this before, that we were going to do the hospital fundraiser again, or the hospice fundraiser again. The dates, I believe, it starts April 16th and it goes for 10 days. So if you would like to be added to the Facebook group, let me know and I will make that happen. And there's also the videos from last year that I've received emails that people really enjoyed them and they laughed for hours. Clearly I'm a very good comic actor with great timing. I'm just waiting for the Academy Award. Thanks.
Councillor Desai, I don't connection or mine. I suspect it may be mine, but the last part of your message broke up. Am I the only one that's experiencing that?
Yes, so you're frozen on my screen as well, Mr. Morton. There we go. Now you're on mute.
Here I am. I need to unmute. My apologies. I'm having technical difficulties, it seems. So I apologize, Councillor Desai. I did miss the last part of your message. And if I'm the only one that missed it, then maybe we can reconnect later. Or if it's short, can you repeat just the last 30 seconds or so?
I was just boasting about my comic timing and said I was waiting for the Academy Award. I also did mention that the context for the comic timing, I guess, was the fact that last year's videos are still up and a lot of people found them hilarious. So that's about the last 30 seconds in a recap.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much. Next is Councillor Soever.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, as Councillor Desai mentioned, vaccinations are a big issue, and certainly our pharmacy, the good news is our pharmacy was selected as one of the 350 in the next batch. That's the good news. They had 2,400 people register in the first few days. So that, I guess, isn't great news, because that shows you how many people haven't yet got their vaccinations. So that's, we're working on that. And I want to thank the health unit. We're working on them as well with the pop-up clinic to help maybe absorb some of that. And our doctors as well apparently have a list of 300 waiting. I myself was able to get an appointment in Hanover for the 21st, but yesterday was the first day I was able to roam around the provincial registration site. And certainly that was the earliest I could get one anywhere Other than Sudbury, I could have gone there for the 16th, but the rest of the Southern Ontario seems to be, appointments are only showing up on the provincial website up, now we're looking at the last week of April or May in many instances. So there's clearly a lot of work to do. And, I think it is good news that everybody's working together and the pharmacies are getting online. And, and I want to thank the health unit for working with us too, to see what we can do here, because clearly we have a huge backlog and we need to clear some of that up.
Thank you, Councillor Soever. Now, you mentioned our pharmacy, but what specific pharmacy was it that was approved?
Yeah, the one in Thornbury, the Thornbury PharmaSave. So there are a number of grades that have been approved. The province is hoping to have 1,500 by the end of the month. Ours was, because we are in a kind of a unique situation, I guess, with a lot of people that don't have local family health team doctors. I guess they got prioritized. I don't really know the background of all that, but they did get approved, and now they've got 2,400. But I think the first week they received 200 vaccines. So there's 12 weeks.
Okay, next, thank you for that. Now, next is Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you, and good morning, County Council. Under the celebration category, I would like to say that the Toastmaster Division T International Speech Contest was just held, and Lishi Springford of Durham was a participant in this esteemed competition. So I just want to extend congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you for that. Next is Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council. I just wanted to share with everyone that the Saugeen Municipal Airport Commission is preparing for some economic recovery. And we just wanted to announce that we've got a couple of new hangar builds planned for the airport. And we have renewed interest from the Canadian Forces Snowbirds. And we're also in the works of a new flight school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I remember that commission very, very well, 10 years. Okay, Councillor Desai, I still see your hand up. Is it just, do you have something else?
Yes, I just wanted to add the Markdale Pharmacy was also one of 3 pharmacies selected in Grey Bruce Health Unit in order to administer the AstraZeneca vaccine. Thank you to Councillor Soever for reminding me of that. Thanks.
Okay, I will flip my screen here. I don't see any other hands. I see Councillor Patterson has joined us. Has Dr. Era joined us as well, Madam Clerk?
Yes, he has.
Okay, so maybe this is a good time. You've just joined us, Councillor Patterson, but we have held off on the Board of Health minutes dated March 5th. It has been moved and seconded, but if Dr. Era and or Councillor Patterson want to address this, the floor is now yours.
Certainly, thank you for the floor, Mr. Warden, and apologize. We were both late in a separate meeting from this. So the highlight from the previous board meeting, the Board of Health meeting, comes related to 2 items: the vaccine distribution and the trust in the health unit. And the first one, there has been quite the development since then, as you know. So I might be mixing that update with the most up-to-date information. We have finished in Grey Bruce as a Grey Bruce Force task. We finished the first stage in our terms of reference, which is related to planning and implementation. And the second one would be just implemented in communication throughout the summer for phase 2 and 3. Phase 1 was nicely completed. Everybody who would qualify for phase 1 was offered the vaccine. Uptake was quite significant in high risk population, whether it's 80 plus or long-term care. Long-term care was vaccinated both first and second dose for residents, staff, and caregivers. And the direction provincially is only for the residents to receive it. Nevertheless, locally, I see all the value in having the whole sector covered. First Nation communities, both of them had around average of 77%, which is herd immunity. So the uptake and the application, the deployment has been optimal. The other the other groups in phase 1 as well have been offered. And if anybody who qualifies did not receive the vaccine, we'll continue to offer the vaccine going in phase 2 and 3. So on the front of phase 2, we do have the capacity to go forward, and the capacity comes from 5 distinct delivery methods. The 3 hubs is one of them. Many hubs or community centers have been mapped out in every municipality. Nevertheless, we might not use all of them just because there is pharmacy and primary care approval that came through in the past week. 3 pharmacies, as was mentioned, Thornbury, Blue Mountains, that's one, Markdale and Southampton. And there are a list of 11 pharmacies ready to be approved by the ministry. We submitted this last night with more pharmacies to join the effort. Primary care, we have 5 committed family health teams to cover certain communities, and that's where the community centers in every municipality might not be used, since there is capacity locally to do that. Indigenous community health centers, another, the 4th method of delivery, and the 5th one is mobile units, and we will be delivering the vaccine to people who need it at their home. And we, I believe the team started this week, and we will be working with EMS as well on that front. The booking system is another update there related to vaccine. We have the provincial booking system based on age, and we deployed our own local system to arrange for groups from the second phase, whether it's essential workers or people with comorbidities. Yesterday, we opened it to the public, and we have a clinic today that's a pilot clinic. My understanding, things are going as planned. It's worth mentioning, Mr. Warden, the number of vaccines administered in Grey Bruce based on population is higher than the provincial average. So we're getting our fair share. Nevertheless, we know that people are eager, and if there is more vaccine, we definitely will provide it as soon as it arrives. So that's on the vaccine front. I wonder if I can, I had used slides in the board meeting, and I wonder if we can post these 3 slides. This is a survey from January to the public in Grey Bruce, and it was done by a third party external, but we designed the questions and the different parameters. You can see the red lines on the very far right. This is the people who are not compliant with the public health recommendation, frankly saying, I don't want to isolate, I don't want to wear a face mask. It is less than 5% in all categories. There is optimal compliance. The blue is people who do it on a continuous basis, follow the recommendation. And the yellow ones are people who often or sometimes would follow the recommendation. So anytime you get over 50, 60% for public health intervention, that's a success. We're getting 90 and 80 and 90 in all categories. And if I can go to the next slide as well, please. Thank you. So the perception of vaccine in general, this is again from January, after a couple of weeks from the licensing of vaccines, the first vaccine, and you would see the readiness and the hesitancy is in red. The readiness is the rest of it. Again, it's an optimal scenario in Grey Bruce. And if we go to the last one, please. This is the opinion on Grey Bruce management of the pandemic, whether it is the perception of providing enough information about providing updates in the management of the pandemic. And again, you would see the black is people who didn't know, didn't want to provide an answer. The red is less than 5%. If you want to look at between 60% to 80% would absolutely have full trust. These three slides, Mr. Warden and Council, are related, and they're based on this trust, and it has been the collective effort of everybody around the table, whether it's the local political leaders, the public health, the healthcare system, local journalism. In my update to the board, we discussed an issue where we see attempts to undermine the Board of Health, to undermine the response from the health unit, the MOH, and that was concerning. The board made a decision to direct me to discuss this issue and address it head on. And I do believe the overwhelming positive response we received from the community after the fact is reassuring that the trust is there. I continue to look at the trust factor as a variable that is core to the management of the pandemic. Nevertheless, over the past 12 months, we've seen from the community in Grey Bruce, from all partners, optimal commitment. So we hope this is going to continue the way it is to manage this third wave and finishing the pandemic management by administering the vaccine over the coming few months. So that's my update, that's my update, Mr. Warden. Open to questions as always. I do believe that the chair of the board has more information to add.
You're on mute, Mr. Warden.
Every meeting, you're going to get some of those, right? What would a meeting be without someone being reminded that they're on mute? So thank you, Dr. Era. And Councillor Patterson, I'll invite you next. You have the floor.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. Good morning, County Council. My apologies for being late. During our March meeting, we welcomed Alan Barfoot as a provincial appointee. You'll know him as a past warden and former mayor of Georgian Bluffs. We also had a presentation, and this was the very last presentation of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Sarah Cowley, the coordinator, along with Barb Fady, Grey County Director of Social Services, and Andrea Riley, a public health manager, presented it. It was very good to see it again. Well done. And 3 directors will be attending the virtual Association of Local Public Health Agencies, the annual meeting for that on June the 8th. And that's just a short update. Thank you, Warden Hicks.
Very welcome, and thank you for that. And Council, are there any questions? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council, and through you, Warden, to Dr. Era. I was just wondering, Dr. Era, if you could provide a little more information on how the scheduling will be done for the mobile units that you mentioned in your update. That's my first question. And my second question is, could you comment on the pros and cons of vaccine passports, please?
For you, Mr. Warden, the mobile units would be deployed to provide the vaccine to people who are homebound mainly, and these individuals have different connections to the healthcare system. One of them is the home care, and that's probably that is the most practical way to connect with them. So we have that mapping out of people who need it, and we'll deploy as needed. The second part of the question is related to the vaccine passport. As a concept, vaccine administration or rollout in Canada is based on choice. That's the core of the passport itself. So it is not mandated in any way. Nevertheless, there are incentives and disincentives that would encourage people to have the vaccine, and the main underlying principle is ensuring safety of the public. We've already seen certain application of the concept with flights. Anybody who want to board an airplane needs to have a test for COVID, and the vaccine can stand for that test in certain circumstances. So going forward, we might see it applied in certain high risk for transmission situations, whether it's movie theaters or restaurants. I have not received any written or verbal direction on this from the Ministry of Health. Nevertheless, the concept is being discussed in general in the specialty.
Thanks very much.
I don't see any other hands, Madam Clerk. Does anyone else have any questions? I see none. Okay, so then I will call the question on the motion by, well, I forget who now because we had to, oh, sorry, I see Councillor Soever. Go ahead.
Yes, as we proceed to the motion, I'd like to propose a small amendment. There has been in the media and various other places questions about the operation of the health unit. And I think, the health unit's done a great job, and Dr. Era as well. I know he's called me to answer questions of mine at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. He's also emailed me at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I know how hard he's working. So I would like to propose an amendment that council expresses its confidence in and appreciation to the team at the Grey Bruce Health Unit for its hard work and dedication. And I think we should add that to the receipt of the report.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm smiling because I'm aware that there's someone else that had a similar intention. Madam Clerk, how do you want to handle this? Because I know that you had a motion, sort of a draft motion prepared.
I did. Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Councillor Soever. I think I would like to keep these two items distinct so that we're adopting the minutes and the board report. And then I know in a conversation late yesterday afternoon with Councillor Millen, he expressed an interest to put a motion forward following the adoption of the Board of Health minutes and report, very similar to what you're proposing, Councillor Soever. So if that is okay, then I think it would be my recommendation that we adopt the minutes and the board report and then put the other motion on the floor.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you very much. So if there's nothing else, then maybe I will call the question on the motion that's before us. Is there anyone opposed? And seeing none, I'm going to say that that is carried. I can turn the floor over to either Councillor Milne or to Councillor Soever, but I'm in your hands. Councillor Milne, I'll acknowledge you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I do appreciate Councillor Soever's sentiments there. I feel very strongly that we need to do this, given the events of late. And I've been in conversation with the clerk to draft a proposed motion if the council deems it appropriate. The motion would read that a letter of support be drafted under the warden's signature on behalf of Grey County Council, thanking Dr. Era and his team for their continued diligence and support during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I had asked Councillor Hutchinson to second that, and I believe he's agreed to do that.
Councillor Hutchinson has got his hand up, so I'm going to say moved by Councillor Milne and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Tom.
With respect to the letter, is there any discussion, Council? I do not see any hands.
I do.
Yeah, I see Councillor Body. Yeah.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. I fully support this, and I can tell you that we've got 8 city councils in the city of Owen Sound that will support this. Dr. Era came to our council meeting and, maybe made a comment that I wished he hadn't, because it took away from all the important stuff that he said. It has been misinterpreted and it has been thrown around by a councillor to his advantage and frankly on social media. And social media is really anti-social media these days, and it's becoming I understand it. People are so frustrated with COVID that they're striking and attacking out. We all chair meetings. We all know what it's like to try and concentrate on everything that's going on while you're chairing a meeting and try to keep all the balls in the air. We all know as a councillor or as a chair or deputy chair of our lower tiers, you know, we look back at South Bruce Peninsula and last term and the things that went on there with horror, and we hoped it wouldn't happen to us. And as things go on, sometimes behind the scenes, we've all done things where we've tried to keep the balls in the air and keep confidence in the community for their public administration and for their council. And we as councillors sometimes carry a lot of stress, or as chairs, what's going on. What the public has not seen but will be seen soon is Dr. Era clearly has done one heck of a job in the last year. We've all seen those emails in the middle of the night. We all know that he's going 7 days a week. We've all had those emails that have come on Christmas Day, etc. All of us are tired. All of us are worn down. And he says that he bounces along and that he just seems to get energized. But I know Dr. Era is a human being, and at some point he gets tired too, like the rest of us. What the public doesn't know, and what I want to share with councillors, is that I'm very aware of a councillor in the city of Owen Sound who has been sending emails to the health board and to Dr. Era, challenging him and demanding information, etc., and questioning him for what appears to me about a year. There's about 3 different terms that I can think of that far exceeds the authority of a councillor. Any sitting councillor, of course, we're responsible to make decisions and represent the public and the administration that we're elected to. I can tell you that there's been a history that, you know, Deputy Mayor O'Leary or Councillor O'Leary has been through a lot in the last couple of years with emails that the public doesn't see, as Dr. Era has, and it's as a lot of other people. Joe Levac, who is a contractor with Owen Sound Police Services during the last council term, Chief Ambrose, etc. So there's more going on here than what the public understands, and there's a context to everything that has gone on. I think it's extremely important that we appreciate and state clearly that we appreciate everything that Dr. Era has done for us. As Councillor Swever's email said the other day, you know, we should be questioning why everyone else isn't getting paid as much for what they're doing. And I feel very strongly he's very accurate with that, and very strongly support everything that Dr. Era has done for us, for Graham Bruce. Our numbers show for it. The hours that he's put in shows for it. And, you know, I just feel sick to my stomach that one person has been able to twist this for, well, we've got an email that talks about how they want to appear at the next election. We need to support the people that are supporting us, and especially in the middle of a pandemic, and this is important. So I really hope that everyone's going to support this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Boddy. Dr. Era.
You are on mute, Dr. Era.
Thank you. Thank you for the remarks, everyone. Through you, Mr. Warden, I am honored. Mayor Boddy, the delegation that I presented at council, including the comment, would go towards the duty of myself to my community. I would do it all over again if the comments seem to be harsh. I just wanted to convey in one way or the other that there is so much respect to a council. There is so much halo around the concept of council and the leadership of a community, and that what my words meant is the person who built the city, who built the council, would be disappointed to see what happens. In First World War, Second World War, physicians would fight for their patients. I can see direct relationship between attempts to undermine the Board of Health and the health unit response, and that's for 3 months or more. It's not just the sunshine list. Seeing those things happening, I knew going into council is might throw some mud at my name, but I would do it all over again. There are people who would die if we don't. The gentleman who died in the hospital in the last, the third person who died in Grey Bruce, could we have done differently if everybody was around the table pushing in the same direction instead of that undermining? Anyways, if the council is offended by that term that I mentioned, I have no intention to offend council. I just wanted to send a message to the public clearly that this is not all right. We've done, all of us, absolutely tremendous work. And people saying, Dr. Era, I'm just a bloke. I'm just one of a team and the bigger team in Grey Bruce, people around this table. And if there is a need there to actually raise the alarm and say this needs to be stopped, and I said those words, I'm ready to go do it all over again.
Thank you, Dr. Era. Next, I have Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I just wanted to support the earlier comments. Councillor Body is right. We've all been through this kind of thing. We all know that there are those outliers out there that question our motives when we have the best of motives, question our efforts when we've made the best of efforts. This situation has not been easy for anybody, least of all the people that are at the very front of the fight, and that is the health unit and our whole medical system, I might say. I know that our staff have been very pleased with the help and assistance they've gotten from the health unit staff over the year, and they've always been ready to help, and no matter how busy they are and how tired they are, Dr. Era has been very ready to answer questions, and some of them probably the same questions he's had 50 times, but he's answered them and tried to be very patient with everybody. We have seen all around us the difference, I think, between properly handling this situation and not handling it very well. And we are very lucky to live in this little island. We know over here that if we go 10 or 15 minutes to the east, we're into a different health unit where the situation is much different. And the only thing that's different is that jurisdictional line that we would be crossing. So we're very thankful to the health unit and Dr. Era and all the work they've done. And I think I speak for the general public because I think we see by the survey that most people are quite appreciative of the work they've done, even if there are those few people that want to tear things down whenever they get the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Next on my list is Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I appreciate the opportunity to speak through you. I'd like to certainly echo the comments of both Councillor Body and Councillor Potter. I think that we've seen over, well, probably the past decade anyway, what happens when you have a councillor arrive on the scene whose only agenda is disruption. Disruption of the systems that have been put in place, disruption of the good work that you've tried to do. And I regret that Dr. Era has been the victim of the agenda of disruption that we're seeing being enacted. Nobody should be making political capital under the guise of asking tough questions, but that's exactly what's been going on. And I hope that most people, I believe that most people recognize that that's what's going on. And I certainly constantly remind people that Facebook and social media are not, in fact, reality. What goes on in there is a very, very, very small portion of the public at large. And it tends to be, in my experience at least, the nastiest portion of the public at large, the place where people feel they can say anything they want and do anything they want without fear of repercussion. And unfortunately, we as public figures are often the target of those barbs. So to echo Councillor Body, I will assure you that what you are hearing is a single individual's opinion in Owen Sound, a single individual who does not understand the role of a municipal councillor and who feels that a municipal councillor alone has more power than a group of municipal councillors together. And that's just wrong. And so I will certainly support the motion. I will reaffirm my support for Dr. Era and for the Grey Bruce Public Health Unit, who have, in my view, been doing an excellent job at what they've been doing during this pandemic. We're all safe, we're all continuing to function, and that is all because of Grey Bruce Public Health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have next on my list Councillor Soever, but am I wrong with that one?
Since I already spoke and I see Councillor McQueen desire, I thought I'd take it down to let them go first.
Okay, and did you have something? So do you want me to come back to you? I didn't hear your response. I'm going to assume you want me to come back to you. Next is Councillor Desai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. So I think, again, I'll echo all the comments and I won't repeat them, but I think most around this table, most in public recognize the wonderful job that Dr. Era and his team have been doing at Grey Bruce Public Health. I know from a lower tier perspective, the municipality of Southgate passed a motion to show appreciation for the amazing work that's been done by Dr. Era and his team at the Grey Bruce Health Unit. Yesterday, there was a notice of motion provided at the municipality of Grey Highlands council meeting, which will be debated at the next meeting to the same effect. So it's heartening to see that the naysayers are perhaps outliers in this case, and that we do appreciate the fact that we have been kept safe. We have been the best performing health unit in Ontario, and I think that's very worthy of note. Thank you very much, Mr. Warden.
Thank you, Councillor Desai. And next I have Deputy Warden Mcqueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, County Council, and the viewing public. I'm going to share a little bit of my experience as being the warden last year, and sort of going back to the time when before even the pandemic started. And certainly, I think from probably a lot of perspectives, it's a lack of knowledge and understanding that went on behind the scenes. That's, this thing has been going on for, it's hard to believe, over a year now. But with my presence of being warden, I was on the health board as ex officio, as we all know. And certainly I remember the two meetings that we had in person, the January and February meetings, where we could hear this rumblings of this COVID-19, and it wasn't on our shores yet. And certainly Dr. Era was doing an amazing job of educating the health board and all these trends that have, from his experience and from his education, was sharing with us, which was like, wow, I know myself, and I'm sure others were, and all the probabilities that could happen, and he was bang on. Like, he had the information, he was educating us, and certainly providing information to the health board that were preparing us to what could and eventually did happen. And so I think that was, that goes right back even before we declared an emergency in March. And I think, as Sussex County Grey, March 25th. And, Dr. Era was already in the trenches, so to speak, educating us and following what was happening elsewhere in the world. And leading up to then, from that, he was instrumental in working with others, and with regards to the field hospitals, as we know, that were in Owen Sound and Hanover. And I know we toured, editor of the Hanover Field Hospital, along with the now current warden and Mayor Patterson, and we were ahead of things, and thanks to the leadership of Dr. Era and providing that, and and pushing the envelope. And fortunately, during those times we didn't need those field hospitals, but we were ready. And we always said that it's better to be prepared than have something happen and not be prepared. So I think from the public's perspective, they may not have seen that preparation and that background work that he was doing. And I know his warden is echoing others, Laura and others, that having contacts and having discussions at late times at night or early in the morning or on the weekend. He was working 7 days, 24 hours a day. And I think part of maybe from a public's perspective of not knowing, and I think is us as having those relationships with Dr. Era, is educating and communicating that is so important. And we're so lucky to have had Dr. Era there representing us as the Grey Bruce Health region, and continuing for that. So I just want to pass that on as my experiences as more than last year. And I could go on and on and on, similar to all the other comments that are there, but he's a genuine, hardworking guy, and we're so lucky. So thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you very much. I do not, I see Councillor Clumpus.
And Mr. Warden, I did see Councillor Burley with his hand up.
Okay. Councillor Clumpus, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. I really have nothing more to add to the eloquence we've heard this morning, and certainly appreciate all of the comments that have come forward and support of the health unit and Dr. Era in particular. I just wanted to add that I believe very much that he has been the inspiration and the role model for all of us as we move forward this pandemic situation. And in that vein, I fully support a letter coming from Grey County, and would recommend that if this is not unanimous in the vote, that we take care of that through a recorded vote to make sure that we're all recorded on that letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clumpus. Councillor Burley, you're next. You're muted.
Yes, sorry. That's exactly what I wanted to say, was that I wanted to have a recorded vote on this important motion. But I want to make it very clear to Dr. Era and his team, as the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, we're 100% behind you with everything you do, and thank you very much for that. We as council members have to be very careful if we decide to support something or put your name forward, that you're not representing your municipality. And that's extremely disappointing when that happens sometimes. And I just want to make it very clear that I support Dr. Era and everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Councillor Robinson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you, I certainly echo everything that my esteemed colleagues have said about Dr. Era. Very much appreciate all of his work throughout this global pandemic. And I would very much appreciate if this resolution could be circulated to our member municipalities. I think it's just something that it is most beneficial for all of us to have that knowledge of how we have supported Dr. Era and the Grey Bruce Public Health. Thank you.
Do we need, Madam Clerk, to add that? No. Okay.
No, I think we'll provide a copy to all the local Grey County municipalities.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden Hicks and County Council. Again, I want to echo our support from Hanover. One thing no one's mentioned is the hockey hub. Dr. Era's idea, his own, that has been passed on to other communities and even other countries. I'm a little biased. I've seen a lot of the work that Dr. Era does firsthand, and I don't think we could be in better hands. Thank you, Dr. Era.
Thank you very much. I do not see any other hands.
Councillor Carlton.
Oh, yes. There we go. Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And to just comment on what Councillor Patterson said, before you and Dr. Era arrived in under Good News and Celebrations, I had commented on going to Hanover yesterday and how smoothly that flowed and all the volunteers and everyone there. And I have my first vaccine and it's just an amazing setup. So kudos to everyone that's taking part in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlton. I don't see any other hands now.
No.
And at the risk of echoing, I just want to say I echo the comments of everyone so far. And like Deputy Warden Mcqueen, I too have had very personal experience of interacting with Dr. Era at all hours and weekends and including the additional meetings that Dr. Era has with the MPPs and with other parties. So I've been able to experience that. And I think most of all, and I've mentioned this to Dr. Era before, I appreciated the master classes that he has that he's given. Really, I mean, if you're interested in learning, to sit on a board of health and to have Dr. Era go into professorial mode is really something to see. I know I enjoy learning and I enjoy experiencing him in that role. So I'll stop there because it's all been said already. But I do see Councillor Mackey and then Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mr. Warden, and through you to Dr. Era on behalf of the Township of Chatsworth, certainly want to extend our thanks for the hard work that he's done over the year. He's been very helpful, and like the other mayors sitting around the table, I know I've also received emails that woke me up in the night. So Dr. Era was working while I was sleeping, and I do truly appreciate all his efforts. I'm sorry that things got lost in a sunshine list because it's not reflective of the hard work that's been done over the year. And anyways, I fully support Dr. Era and the work the health unit's done, and certainly agree with all the comments that my colleagues around the horseshoe have mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So lastly, I have Councillor Potter, and then we go back to Councillor Soever. So Councillor Potter, you're next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. And I just, one point that I haven't heard is that while all of this has been going on, let's remember that we've heard about all kinds of other issues from Dr. Era, about other things going on, particularly opioid. He's been constantly reminding us that we have an even worse situation with opioids in Grey Bruce and beyond, of course. It's not that he's been totally taken up with one issue and nothing more. He has, like a lot of us, he has many things to deal with at once, and that hadn't been mentioned yet, and I just thought it should be recognized.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. And Councillor Soever, I believe that you're last on the list.
Yes, well, my points have been covered. I was just gonna ask for a recorded vote so it can be recorded that, we are unanimous in this, which I believe we are. And, I think it should be recorded that we are.
Thank you, sir. And so I think that said, I don't see any other hands. Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. So we are voting on the motion from Councillor Millen to have staff draft a letter of support on behalf of Grey County Council to Dr. Era and his team. Councillor Mackey.
In favor.
Councillor Gamble.
In support.
Councillor Burley.
In favor.
Councillor Carlton.
In favor.
Councillor Mcqueen.
In favor.
Councillor Desai.
In favor.
Councillor Patterson.
In favor.
Warden Hicks.
Yay.
Councillor Clumpus.
In favor.
Councillor Keaveney.
In favor.
Councillor Body.
In favor.
Councillor Thomas.
In favor.
Councillor Woodbury.
Definitely in favor.
Councillor Millen.
Yay.
Councillor Soever.
In favor.
Councillor Potter.
In favor.
Councillor Robinson.
In favor.
Councillor Hutchinson.
In favor.
Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And Councillor Mcqueen, I believe that you wanted to make a comment after the vote.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. And I'd just like to make the comment. It's so important for everyone, ourselves, the public, to do our part to end this pandemic and get back to normal. So Dr. Eric can have a day off. So I just wanted to make that comment that, you know, he's working hard and it's up to all of us to try to do our part and be done with this darn pandemic so we can get back to normal. But I'm sure Dr. Eric would like that time deserves that time to spend some downtime with himself and his family. And we all have to remember that he is working very, very hard on our behalf. And I'm sure he's looking forward to that day of having more time to spend with his family. So, you know, he's making sacrifices as well, but let's hope we can get through this and do our part. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Okay, we've had a very good discussion, an important discussion, and now it's time to move on. So I'll turn back again to the land acknowledgement, which we missed at the beginning, and I want to respectfully say I'm sorry for that, but here we go. So we acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot people, on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. Okay, we are now at adjournment. It is moved by Councillor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Woodbury. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried.